Well, it's about that time again, folks. Grand Traverse County is going to be starting their new budget January 1st, 2026. The budget is going to be presented to the county commissioners on Wednesday, December 17th, 2025. This budget is about 142 pages long, certainly something you can take a look at on the Grand Traverse County site. However, Jim Horn is here to explain some of the essentials of the new budget. So let's listen to Jim with a short conversation about the new budget.
Hey folks, I'm Jim Horn, and today on Traverse Talks, we're looking at the proposed 2026 Grand Traverse County budget, and it's just not about numbers. I didn't want to go into the weeds on this podcast, but I think you need to understand some of the numbers, and that's what I'm going to give you, some of the numbers. This is about a 5-minute podcast. This budget locks in decisions on new buildings, long-term debt, staffing restraint, and public safety spending that's going to shape the county for the next decade. So let's cut through the language and talk about what's really happening, what's smart, and what deserves closer public scrutiny. I looked at the initial PDF that's going to be presented on Wednesday, and it's about 142 pages. It's really pretty extensive. So I wanted to whittle this thing down and give you some what I think are important numbers. And if you want to go to the county page, you can do that, and you'll see the whole breakdown, all 142 pages. Anyway, where does the money come from? The county's financial strength continues to come from property taxes. In 2026, the county expects $38.4 million in property tax revenue, and that's up more than $3 million from last year. But here's the key point. Millage rates are slightly lower, but property values are rising fast, up 7.5% in 1 year. And we all know that housing in Traverse City is really not affordable any longer. So even with the rate reductions, residents are still paying more, and that's really growth-driven revenue, right? Not policy restraint. And it matters because the future budgets assume that this kind of growth is going to continue. Where does the money go? If you want to know the county's priorities, follow the spending. Public safety dominates the general fund at $22.4 million. God, it is. Thank God it's not billion. $22.4 million. And by far, that's the largest category. And the next big number is easy to overlook. And that's $14.3 million, and that's in transfers, mostly to cover debt, pensions, and long-term liabilities. This is the cost of past decisions coming due. And then you're going to add in general government operations, courts, and legislative functions, and you see a county increasingly balancing today's services against yesterday's obligations. But here's the real story, and we've been reporting on this for the past few months. The real story is buildings and debt, and this is the most consequential part of the 2026 budget. For the first time since 2012, Grand Traverse County is preparing to build major new facilities, including a 9/11 center, a central operations building, and they're in the early planning stages of a new jail. The 9/11 center and the central operations building are pretty far along. The jail, no one has really proposed any starting phase for that. Numbers that I've heard thrown around are about $50 million for the new jail. Anyway, don't hold me to that. Anyway, the county deserves credit for trying to limit borrowing on these items, identifying up to about $13 million that can reduce the future debt. But here's something, it's a watchdog question or a watchdog suggestion. Once construction begins, will cost controls hold? Big public building projects rarely get cheaper, and the jail project in particular is still in its early stages with major cost uncertainty ahead. So this budget opens the door, but the real price tag is really going to come a lot later. Good news on the staffing front. There is staffing restraint and possibly service pressure. Despite growth and the new facilities, the county is holding the line on staffing. Departments were told to scale back non-essential requests. The health department is even freezing 5 positions. And at the same time, the county is paying $3.9 million toward pension bond debt, contributing $1.4 million to employee retirement, covering retiree health obligations, and approving cost of living increases for the county employees. So we're going to see that balance between workforce stability and service pressure is fragile. You don't like to step up to a counter at the county building and wait 15 minutes to get service. It's something the residents are going to feel if the demand rises faster than the staffing. And there are a couple of quiet changes that affect you, although we have reported on these. First, a county-wide point of sale septic inspections are to begin January 1, 2026. That's a real cost and responsibility for homeowners tied to water protection. Now, I want to make this perfectly clear. That's when you are going to sell your property. And that went into effect. That was discussed a lot on the podcast. And I would suggest you go back and listen to prior podcasts, and you'll get some ideas of exactly what the inspections are about and how many feet you have to be away from the water, etc. Second, the county is investing in communications platforms, dashboards, and even AI tools, promising transparency and efficiency. These tools are only as good as the information they share and how clearly it's explained to the public. Okay, here's the takeaway. The 2026 budget is really financially disciplined on paper, but it commits the county to some very major projects with long tails. It's going to rely on continued growth, restrained staffing, and tight cost control. And those are things that require constant public oversight. So don't be afraid. If you see something remiss, make your public comment known at the county commissioners meeting. And this budget isn't the end of the conversation. It's really the starting gun, January 1st, 2026. And this podcast will keep watching right here on Travers Talks. Anyway, I'm Jim Horn. This is Travers Talks, and have yourself one great day.